Joining us now in studio is former Detroit Police Chief Ike McKinnon. Thank you for being with us to talk about this. My condolences to you and everybody in the law enforcement community. I've got a brother-in-law who's a police officer, and he said to me today, it just affects everybody.
Absolutely. I can tell you that during my tenure as chief, I lost 4 officers. And this is the worst time for not only the law enforcement officers, but their families and everyone in the community who sees and hears this. It's the worst possible time.
And the person who has to go and tell the family and bring them that news is just beyond devastating, I know.
I remember telling 4 families. It was the worst time for me in my career as a police chief.
When we look at the situation going on there now, I mean, this has been going on since 10 o'clock last night.
Yes.
The one officer killed through the doorway. My understanding from talking to an FBI agent earlier today is that domestic violence type situations are some of the most dangerous for you guys. It's
classified as the worst for police officers responding. And usually you hope that it's going to be okay.
Right.
That's not the case. Usually there's some kind of trouble, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he had a lot of weaponry, it seems, at home and whatnot. What do you make when you look at the scene right now and the decision with this wall that we see knocked down? Can you help us understand what the thought process was to do that?
We know that he's killed 1 person.
Yes.
We know that if they go in, there's a possibility that he'll kill more. They're taking the right steps. They're going slow. Eventually he's going to have to sleep. So if you have to take the house apart, do that. But you don't want anybody else killed.
I heard today, and it's interesting, those of us not in the law enforcement community, right? Someone said to me today, what are they waiting for? Why don't they just go in there and get him? Protect themselves, but go in and get him. That's not the mindset. If you know he's by himself, then it's almost a waiting game, isn't it?
Absolutely, because you don't know if he has armor-piercing bullets. You just don't know what he has in there. I mean, I was listening to the story of how they got bin Laden. We don't know if this man has some other kind of armament in there and what he'll do. Again, we know that he's killed 1 person.
Right.
We don't need any more hurt.
We heard talk about robots today being used. Tell me what you know about that and how useful they can be.
They are good for identifying if in fact there's a person inside, but maybe he's got doors locked and closed and they can't the robot can't move within certain areas. It's kind of like the flash grenades. Some people they work on. I mean, when we use them in Detroit, we've had people literally run out of the house. Other people, they don't bother at all. Tear gas. Some people, I remember when we went through the training, we couldn't stand it, but people who have a certain form of mentality, it doesn't bother them.
Chief, talk to us about this idea that this is a 4,000 square foot home. That has to make this more difficult.
Absolutely.
There's a whole lot of places to hide in a home that big.
Absolutely. You know, when we've done searches in homes, it has been most difficult of big homes. You know, when you know the person is, let's say, on the first floor, they're in the living room, the kitchen, or something like that. Yes. That's easy. But when you have this huge home, you have to do all this searching. And let's say you tried to send some officers in to do a room-by-room search. Again, we've lost officers. Other departments have lost officers in those kind of searches. They're taking it slow. If it takes 2 days, if it takes 3 days, you're not losing anybody. He's going to have to go to sleep at some point.
Well, I would think you can't stay awake for 2 days even, right? So you'd think that you could get a resolution to this sooner than later. What is the goal as law enforcement? What is the goal of this? Is it to take him, I mean, is it to take him alive? Is it to just end this? Or what's the ultimate goal?
The goal is to resolve it as peaceful as possible. And unfortunately, if it means taking his life, then you might have to do that. But we know that this is going to be a difficult situation.
This morning when he went in, I understand he was not alone, Officer O'Rourke. They didn't even see him. That Ricky, the suspect, apparently was in a bedroom and allegedly fired shots through the wall and hit him. I was curious, in thinking about how this unfolded, what kind of protocol is for the other officers who were with him, that it didn't end kind of then? Likely they left the house to assess what was going on?
Well, you try and get your partner out as soon as possible.
Okay.
And I can recall a few of my officers in a similar type situation where they pulled that officer out right away, and I'm sure this happened here. They pull him out as soon as possible because you don't know if he's dead or he's still alive, but you want to get him out as soon as possible.
And that's your first priority.
Absolutely.
It has to be. So, and not the suspect. You know, we are looking at these live pictures, and just so you know, we've seen the kind of the damage on the one side of the house as they went in. It looks like the SWAT team truck at the bottom of the screen there is going up. When you see a picture like that, does it look to you, can you glean anything from that, I guess?
Well, because there's a possibility he might be watching this, you know, we don't want to really talk about that. I mean, we don't want to give him that possibility of knowing what's going to happen.
Okay.
So if he's watching this, he would know that this is what we're getting ready to do. Now, we don't want to tell him more information than we have to.
No, that makes sense. I mean, we are getting reports that officers went in that house from video, but we'll keep an eye on it. And I appreciate your insight, because you're right. If he's somewhere watching him, and just the final question I want to ask you: in a house that size, with all the entrance and exits and all that, all of this is going on this day. Shia, being in a helicopter up from above, I assume every entrance and exit in that house has just been eagle eyes on that all day long.
I know that what we had people positioned in certain locations, and I'm sure that with the SWAT team from Michigan State Police, probably the FBI and other volunteer agencies, they have SWAT teams or snipers in certain areas who will do what they have to do also to prevent his escape, because again, we know what he has done. Absolutely.
Right.
This is the worst case scenario.
It really is.
And we look at this and we think about families.
Yes.
You know, my gosh, and you don't want to lose somebody else.
No, you absolutely don't. We appreciate your insight. I know it's hard to talk about it. You've been through it, and we just really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me here. Let's pray for the officer's family and for all the other officers who are there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.